Alright, what's up, guys? So, today we'll be learning how to make a big room track. So, I've been seeing videos on YouTube. I mean, they're alright, but I don't really like how they do it. So, I want to start some series of videos showing you how to create big room tracks. So, basically, when you're starting to create these kinds of tracks, you need to have some methodology as to how you're going to go about creating a track just to improve the efficiency. So, basically, you start by, well, the way I do it depends on what you want to do, really, but the way I do it, and you can write it down if you want. I build the drop first, then the break, and then I link the drop and break together by the build. And then for the second break, it's normally just a little variation of the first break, and then you build it up again and drop it, and then do the outro. And then after you do the outro, then you can do the intro, which is normally using the drums from the drop for the most part. Mixing, as it relates to mixing, that would be a total the other that would be a different series on how to actually mix songs. All right, so let's start. So, like I said, firstly we create the drop. So let me show you how the drop sounds. So that's a little bit showing how the drop sounds. So basically, when you want to start building the drop, you start with a kick. Well, I start with a kick just to get a big room sounding kick, and let me solo this so you can hear. So basically, the kick will consist of, well, this normally when you create the kick for the a big room track, you want to have the punchy part of the kick, and then you want to have what I call the big kick, which is like the doom doom doom, that kind of sound. But this track is weird because like the big kick has the punch in there already, so it will sound like this. And just note that all of this isn't mixed. Like I said, mixing will come in another video. Um, so yeah, so normally this would be just the end of the kick, not the transient. So you'd hear the doom doom doom, and that would be the big kick. And so normally I would side chain the get a punchy kick. I'd get a punchy kick like this or something like that, and then I would side chain the big kick to the punchy kick, so you can have a nice punch and a nice big kick, and then you compress it. So normally how you do it, you start with the kick, well, how I do it, and then after I get the kick, then I'll start building the drop leads. So let me just unmute these real quick and solo. So you have, when you're building the leads for the drop, it's very important that you have a main sound that's in the middle of the stereo field, because if you don't have that, then the sound is not going to be strong. If you have something on the sides, as in if you don't have any mono lead, then when you listen to it through in the car or through big speakers or even on your headphones, well, not so much on your headphones you'll notice it, but when you listen in the car specifically, or on your phones, your what you call it, your smartphones or whatever, you're not going to get that same power that you would if you don't have the mono lead. So this is the mono lead directly in the center of the stereo field. Maybe I should just turn these on just for to show you. So that's in the middle of the stereo field, and then other leads, you just put them on the side of the stereo field so you can create separation between the different lead sounds, because you want everything to have its space and you want everything to sound nice and clean. So you have the mono lead, and then you have the side lead. And normally these kinds of leads that you hear are variations of like saw waves. But I mean, the sky's the limit. Just combine stuff and see how they sound, and the real magic comes in the mixing. That's really. But if you have a good foundation as it relates to like the having good sounds initially, then that makes your job a lot easier. But the magic really comes in the mixing of the sounds, where you use a lot of saturation, a lot of compression to get the leads to pop, and a lot of transient shaping so that you can get that cut through the mix. But like I say, you always have to have your mono lead. And normally when I'm doing it, you just play around with the sounds until you get the sound you desire. So there's no real science to it. But always ensure that you have your mono lead. And then all of these are some variations of saw waves or some that sound good. And what you also want to ensure is that all of them have the same ADSR envelope. So basically that's the progression of the sound over time, or how long the sound lasts, how it builds up into the reaching the actual peak of the sound before the sound dies out and all of that. So you want to, if you don't understand that, then you can watch some videos on ADSR and volume, the amp envelope, and shaping the volume of the sound over time. But you want to ensure that they all have the same ADSR envelope, and if you're using glide, they need to all have the same glide so that the sounds can sound cohesive. These are just the audio files, but I made sure that all of them had the same ADSR envelope and all of them had the same glide function, or glide time, I should say. So this is the main, like I said, the mono sound. And instantly you can hear right there that there's a lot more power to the sound, and I just keep adding until I get a nice sound. So yeah, like you can hear, that's basically don't overthink it. Like, in order to get good melodies too, you want to listen to a lot of these tracks that these guys are making, like the big guys, and just listen to the kinds of the lengths of the notes that they're using, the kind of rhythms that they're using and stuff. Like, if you want to like a kind of faster kind of sounding song, you'd use shorter rhythms versus like longer rhythms if you want something more, what should I say, like slower. Well, I mean the BPM is already fast, but you get what I mean. Like, just play around with it and listen to a bunch of songs and then come up with your own ideas. So take away points from making the leads for the drop. You have to have your mono lead. You have to. There's no doubt about it. If you don't have your mono lead, then when you listen to it through phone speakers and stuff, it's going to sound weak. I'm telling you have to have your mono lead. Yes, so that's basically that. And then in the second part of the drop now, you want to add some other percussion and stuff just to give it, the typical stuff you hear in the big room songs, like the toms. Oh, oops. I need to actually turn on the sound. My bad. And you hear that? Like, this is standard stuff. Like, you hear these in all of these songs. That's the low section of the tom, and then you have the high section of the tom now, which is basically like a perk sound. And like I said, this is not the final sound, and you don't even really hear it that much in the final sound, but it's just to give you that rhythm that you hear in all of these songs. So yeah, and you can experiment with other rhythms too. Like, there's no real science to it. You just play around with it and see what sounds good. Listen to a lot of music and draw inspiration from different songs. So basically, this is how I mixed it. But like I said, mixing is a totally different ball game. Like, there's an art and a science to it. So that'll be a totally different series for mixing big room songs. But basically, this is how it sounds on the tom bus in terms of the what do you call it now? The mixing of the two toms together. And basically it's just pushing it back a little in the stereo field so that you can make space for the kick at the front and providing a little saturation, etc. We'll get into that in the mixing videos. What am I saying? Oh yeah, mute this for now. So yeah, that's the kick on the tom. So yeah. So basically, all I had in this song was a kick on a tom. So that's the drop basically. The kick on the tom, and then you have You have your, what am I saying? Your fills for the drop. So these are the fills I used. So, and if you use splice, then there are a countless number of fills you can find. You just pick something that sounds good in the context of the rhythms that you're using in the lead sounds, and then see if it works. And then if it doesn't work, and you just find something else and switch it up and see if you can find something that sounds better. So that's basically it. What else do I have? And then you have odd, and then these are just fills. So like I said, the best way to go about placing your fills, just like I said, listen to different music, listen to different songs, see the kind of sounds that they're using in big room songs. Well, I haven't listened to much big room recently, but when I used to listen to it a lot, they use a lot of glitch effects and these weird bass sounds, these kind of growling bass sounds, and just different things just to make it interesting. So you have like, alright, so let me play all of these together. So you have your toms and your fills now, and these are all of the fills. Typical Pride of snare sound, and then it goes to this. And sometimes you don't even need to get that crazy with like the fills, because if you have a good lead and a good kick, and the lead is driving the rhythm of the song, then you have to overthink it. Just let it be minimal but sound nice. So it's just, and all of those literally came from Splice. Just use Splice and find something that sounds good, to be honest. And then you have to have these kind of noise down effects, or whatever you want to call them, downer effects, because that white noise adds power to the initial part of the drop, because higher frequencies add power. High frequencies add power. Just anyway, high frequencies add power. So listen. So listen to how that sounds versus how this sounds. See? The higher frequencies add a little more power. So that's basically the drop, and then you can add other effects, like all of these songs have like crowd noises or whatever, just to add a little more texture to fill out the frequency range a little more. Well, like, you don't even hear it that much, but it adds a good amount to the texture. Alright, listen to it without. Alright, listen to it. You can see it has a little bit more texture. And then you have I call them uppers or noise ups or up effects or whatever you want to call them. But basically, to drive into the break so that you can feel like you're climbing. The way I see it, when you're using these effects, it's like you're climbing a hill and then to the climax, and then you just drop. So basically, when the reasoning for using like noise up effects or uppers or these rising effects is so that you can reach a climax, so you can drop again. So yeah. Yeah. So that's basically that. And then yeah. And just bear in mind that this isn't mixed yet, so it doesn't sound as powerful as it can be. And then after that, now you go to the break. And normally in all of my breaks, I start with the chords, but that's just me. So, um, let me see. Oh yeah, what did I use? Okay, I used a pad sound. Oh, this is pad 2 and it's first. Anyway, yeah. So I came up with that chord progression. And to be honest, like sometimes I'll come up with the chords first, or sometimes I'll have the melody in my head and then I do the chords after. As to what I did first here, let me try and remember. I think I came up with a melody. It went dun, 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 na, na, na. But that comes in at the second part of the break. But anyway, the chords, these are the chords right here. And then, so basically, when you're building the break now, you need your chords, you need some kind of Reese bass. That's what they use in big room songs. Chords, Reese bass, claps, rides, um, and then a melody, and anything else you want to add really. So the foundation is really some long chords or sustained chords, which is a pad, which are normally you normally hear pads being used, and then you fill out your low end with a Reese bass, and then for your rhythm you have claps and or rides, so a combination of both sometimes. Um, and after you do that, you have your melody, and then the typical stuff. You need effects to bring up the sound and make it sound the part sound full. So you need like these donut effects or noise down effects or whatever you want to call it, and you uplift those to go in transition into the next section. I always, as you can see here, there's always an uplifter going into the next section, whether you go from break to build or from build to drop or from drop to break or whatever. You always have to have an uplifter, because if you don't have an uplifter, then how are you going to signal that you're changing sections? Because it's like, that's like I said, when you use an uplifter, it's like you go into a climax and then you're dropping into a next section. So you need some method of transitioning. As to how you do that, I find this is the easiest way. Just use an uplifter. So basically, we'll come back. So we'll have the pad in addition to the effects, right? And then you see I have a combination of the ride and clap right. Normally you're going to want to use a ride and a clap because it just works. To be honest, combination of rides and claps together, it just work. So yeah, what else did I bring in? So oh yeah, the uplifter comes in. You'll hear, and then also the respace. So you always have these things. These are like your foundation of any big room break. Your pad, your respace, claps, under rides, and your effects. So let's listen to how it transitions. Oh, oops. I didn't turn this on. And that just takes it to a different level. And then you add other things. So say I added another pad. And like I said, you need your melody. So this is the melody from this. Actually, okay. Oh yeah, I have to turn on all of these things. Like I said, it's not mixed. And then I decided to add these plot chords. But the more experienced you become, the more you realize what you need in each section. So it's not something I can really teach. I can probably teach about melodies or how to achieve the types of different moods you want to go for or whatever. But at the end of the day, it all just comes to your creativity and what you want to add to the song or what the song requires. so that it can sound better. And the way you do that is by listening to a lot of different types of music and creating combinations of different things or drawing inspiration from different things. I can't really teach that. So basically, I just felt like it needed these pluck chords. And all those, that's just these same chords from the pad, but just playing eighth rhythms, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and yeah. Or I guess. Oh yeah, I remember why I did this because it needed some more energy. So these eighth rhythm chords, these faster chords, give it some more energy. And then you have the arp, which is going fast as well. That gives it more energy because that's playing 1 and 2, 16th notes. So yeah. Yeah, so everything together sounds like this. Yeah. Oh, I forgot to add this. And then there was this thing at the start of the break. So basically for the break, you just, like I said, you need to have your pad. You need to have your low end, which is normally a respace, your rhythm, your drums, which are, well, I most of the times I'm just using a clap on a ride. If you want to add more energy to the break before you go into the build, then you use faster rhythms in terms of different, if you want to add a different melody, or you can use the same chords but play it in a faster rhythm. So 8th notes, 16th notes, whatever the song calls for. Also, you need your melody, your top melody for the break, as well as your these things right here, your effects. Normally, I just keep it simple though. I don't look too crazy. The what do you call it now? The noise down effects, and then the riser. You always have a rise. Like you always have something rising into another section of a song. Always, like there hardly ever a song that I don't use some kind of riser to go into the next section or something. Well, at least for big room. And if you, oh, and then yeah, there's also this, the drums that lead into the different, into the into the build. Yeah. And I think I was supposed to have a filter right here. Actually, be right back. My computer is about to die, so I have to actually get my charger. Alright, sorry about that. So yeah, so we're talking about going into the build now. So basically, you transition from the build, break into the build. Like I said, you rise, and I use a snare here too. I think normally I use a snare. I don't quite remember, but just you need something that it's like you're going to a climax and then you're dropping out into a different section. That's basically it. However you achieve that, you can pick whichever way you try to achieve that effect. So for the build now, the build is basically consisting of risers, the down lifters or the noise down effects or the down effects that goes that starts at the inception of the build, which are these. And then you also have your risers, which are these. In addition to your risers, you have your snare, and you're introducing the drop lead. So the drop lead now, you're filtering it, you put in a lot of reverb on it, and you gradually filtering it so that you filtering it using a what now? uh, a high cut filter, and you're filtering up so that you can introduce the sound, introduce the drop, and then you cut it out at the end of the drop, and then bring everything back into the at full power in the drop. So let's start off with the let's start off with the should we start off with? I don't normally start off with. To be honest, I normally start off with the snares, and it depends. The rhythm that you choose for your snare depends on the the lead the lead melody for your drop. So like this one is going turn na 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 na. So I think I just copied that with the snare for the build, and then I use some other snares from Splice, Cashmere sample pack. Yeah, that sample pack is really good. Cashmere, the Cashmere sample packs. Or no, this was actually something else. Anyway, yeah. So you use those, and then you just I followed the rhythm of the drop melody. Da, 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 da. And then in the second part, so you hear the snare is following the lead melody in the first part, and these two other snare builds they just fill out the snare sound, or fill out the frequency spectrum. And then so this is in the first part you normally follow the lead melody, then in the second part you want to use faster rhythms. So normally it's 1 and 2 and 3. Is it so so you start off with 16th note rhythm, and then you get faster and faster progressively. But like I say, just listen to the different big room songs, and because everybody does something different, just to add creativity. Because there's also an element to it where you want to be as creative as possible as well. So yeah, and then you have to pitch up your snare. You pitch up the snare, and then you always pitch up the snare, and then as it relates to the low end. Oh yeah, did I? I don't think I did. I use I don't think I use a bass in this one. I'm not sure. I'm actually not sure. Um. Okay. So as it relates to the effects, I didn't use a bass because I had this sub drop effect. So alright, let's listen. No lies, I did. See, low end build. It's right here. And so yeah. Alright. Alright. So like I said, you start off with the snare, and then you have to have some form of low end, or it's going to sound empty, or if you're trying to achieve a certain effect, or if it sounds good, then you don't use any low end. But normally you'd use a low end, something for the low end. So I have orchestral drum, but it's really just like a drone sound right here. So basically, it's just one note in the first part of the build. That's the root note of the song you're in, most likely. And then when you're in the second part now, you pitch up the low end sound. 12 semitones or 1 octave. Like I said, that same rising, you're trying to achieve that same rising effect. And then as it relates to these other risers, you just you can find them on Splice, or you can create them. The reason I think I created these sounds, but they're not hard. It's just that I heard these kinds of sounds in some different types of songs, so I created it myself. But normally when you get these sounds, hold on, there's a weird one. I need to mute this so you can actually hear it, and then mute the. Oh yeah, that one. I heard that a lot of times. I heard that in a W&W song. So get back to how I create that. But let me see which one is it. Oh yeah, this one. So this is basically just a square wave. You literally just use one oscillator, get a square wave, and then you modulate the oscillator pitch with an LFO, and then you increase the rate of the LFO over time, so that you get this. And then I think I added a chorus effect on it as well, or some chorus or flanger, just to give it that weird kind of sound, and then you mix it up accordingly. But so it's yeah, so it's not hard. So like I said, just make note of this. If you want to get this kind of sound, or you hear those kind of weird sounds, normally they're just modulating the pitch. So basically what I did, I used one oscillator, which was just a square wave, and then it would be pitched up 12 semitones from the root note of the song. And then after you do that, now you want to add the LFO to you modulate the oscillator pitch with an LFO and increase the rate of the LFO, gradually becoming faster until the end of the build up. So you get that kind of, or you can find it in sample packs or whatever. But it's always good to know how to create these kinds of sounds. Yeah, so it's not really that hard. It's not really that hard at all. Well, initially, if for a beginner it would be hard, but so as you do this more and more, it becomes easier. Alright, what's this? I'm not sure if I created that. I don't think I created that. I think I found that on Splicer somewhere. Yeah. You can reverse engineer, but oh wait. No, I was getting confused. Alright, so this is a separate song from. How would I create that song? I don't think I created that song, to be honest. Or did I? Hold on, let me think. But in any case, how you achieve that sound, I think what I did. Actually, I don't know. I'd have to create a different video on that right now, because I actually do remember right now. And then you have, this was just from a sample pack. I think I added these because it was sounding it wasn't filling out this frequency range good enough, so I added this lower sound. And that was just for some texture. And then this sub drop was leading into as in when the second part of the drop the build started to build up. Then you always need that low end energy, or it's going to sound weird. Or like I said, if it works without it, then it works without it. But normally I need to have some kind of low end energy that filters out. Yeah. So you see how it kind of builds up into that. It just builds up and then everything drops out, so that when the drop hits, it's much harder. Because all of these are ideally, I don't think I filtered it out, but ideally what you want to do, you want to use a low pass. Wait, no, not a low pass. A low cut filter. And as the second part of the drop builds up, you want to increase the you want to automate the frequency of the knob of the low cut filter upwards, going towards the going towards the higher frequencies so that you can reduce the energy, because the low end carries a lot of energy. So by taking out the low end, and this is understanding the reason behind why all of this is done now. So by taking out the low end just before the drop, when the drop hits and that low end energy comes back in, it hits much harder. And another thing that people do, I don't really do it because I don't know. I normally get my drops to hit hard anyway, but you really and truly should. So one, filter out the low end energy, and two, the automate, use a gain knob or otherwise to automate the stereo feel so that it can gradually become more mono, and then when the drop hits, you reset everything and everything becomes stereo, and that gives a nice effect that adds power to your drop. Gives a really nice effect. But I don't think I did all of that in this song because my drop hit hard either way. So I was like, I was just lazy to be honest. But yeah, that's good practice. And then let's see. All right. Oh, this was the first mix I did on this song. So this is not how I would have mixed this, but it still worked. And it worked because the way I mixed the drop, it sounded much tighter, much harder than this, than how I mixed this. So by providing variation between how I mixed this and this, I got a little more power going into the drop. So this is not normally how I would mix it. And even if I were to use these bounce leads and put these same plugins on the leads for the build, then I'd probably go easy on the saturation. Is basically this plugin is doing a lot. I'd probably go easy on the saturation. I turn on the saturation a little bit, and so that you don't get a heavy sound, so that it can drop a lot harder into the go a lot harder into the drop from the build. So basically, okay, alright, let's see how this sounds. So basically, you want to filter this out. You use a low pass filter or a high cut filter, and you slowly increase the frequency going towards the higher end, and then when it reaches the higher frequencies now, you close the filter again, because you don't want to keep the filter open, because hearing all of those high frequencies, that provides a lot of energy. And so if you were to leave the filter open and then go into the drop, you'd realize that you don't have much energy going into the drop because you already heard all the high frequencies. So there's no contrast between the sounds of the build and the drop. You see what I mean right now. Alright, let's listen. Let me turn this off. Let me turn this off. Alright, let's listen to. Yeah. I don't, to be honest, I don't know why this sounds so much slower than this one. I mean, it worked in the song, so I don't know. But normally you normally build it up over time. Or like I said, there's an element of creativity to all of this too. So it's not just it's not strictly scientific. So whatever the song calls for as well, you just do it if it sounds good. Like there's no real rules. You hear people saying that a lot in music. Like there's no real rules to things, and it's true. There's an accepted way of doing things, but if you do something and it sounds good, then just go with it. Don't like overthink it just because you see somebody else doing something and achieving a sound or whatever. Because what they do for their song might not necessarily work for yours. But like I said, it comes with time and experience and knowing. Alright, so you can know a lot of techniques, but it's how you apply it. So maybe one song you might be watching videos and learn a bunch of techniques, but different songs call for different things. So just keep learning and using your intuition and doing stuff as you see fit. So basically, like I said, this lead is just being filtered. See? So this is, you'd call this a low, wait, a low pass filter or a high cut. So it was, I think it's supposed to show you what it's doing on this. Oh, no, not that one. I forgot I don't use. So it's doing it on this. So you see right here? And then I close the filter. So you see, it's gradually opening the filter because we're introducing the sound, but we don't want all of those high frequencies because all of those high frequencies provide a lot of energy. So you close it again. Close it again, especially at the end of the drop. And I bounced it, and I don't know how I bounced it, but why did I bounce it? Anyway, yeah. So you get the picture now. And if you don't understand that clearly, just there are a bunch of videos on how to create build-ups and all of that. And I mean, I can show you in another video if you want, but yeah, it's not that hard. So let's see, what did we do? We did the drop, which I showed you. We did the break, and we did the build. So after you do the drop, well, I do the drop first, then the break, and then the build. You literally repeating the same thing in the next break. The only thing that you can add minor variations or whatever to spice it up a little bit, but it's really the same idea. It really is. And then, like I said, you always need to have your uplifting effect or uplifter or whatever you want to call it to go to transition into a different part. So you have that, and then we'll go into that now. I don't know what's going on here because there's supposed to be a filter on this. Oh wait, whoop. I think the filter would have been on this. Alright, so let's listen again. Yeah, so you see? I slowly introduced the lead in. I didn't bring it in right away at high power. So I used the filter again, the same principle. Using that high cut filter, that low pass filter, and you opening it until you hear the sound, and it's like you're teasing the listener. You open it and then you draw it out again, and then I go straight back into the build. Let me activate these sounds so that you can get an idea of what's going on. Alright, let's look at this further. So you see what I did there? I opened the filter and then I closed it. And so that helps to transition nicely into the build. I'm thinking if I left it open how it would sound like. I mean it could work, but it probably won't sound as neat as if you close the filter again. And like I said, you just listen to a bunch of different songs and see how they arrange it, the second breaks or whatever. But the way I did it in this, you have the pad on the ARP that starts first. So see, the pad is playing on the ARP is filtered as well. The ARP is filtered as well. As well as this lead sound, this pluck with reverb thing. And then the low end comes in as well as your claps, and then it literally just does the same thing in terms of the building into the next section. And then it goes back into the build, and I wanted to prolong the build a little, so I just played the I played the build for 8 bars. Wait, 43. Is this 16 bars? Or is it 8 bars? No, 8 bars. I did 8 bars and then 4 bars. Yeah, 8 bars and then 4 bars. So yeah, I was just prolonging it a little longer just to add variation. Gets time for yeah, it's just to add variation really, and keep it interesting. No other reason other than to try and make the track a little more interesting. Oh, I'm missing this. And these, you don't underestimate the power of these little sounds, you know. They can bring the track to such a different level if placed appropriately. Just listen to it with the fill and without the fill. Yeah. No, listen to it without. Yeah, it doesn't sound that nice. And then it just literally builds the same way, and then it drops the same way, and then oh yeah, you have to have some kind of drop vocal or whatever. Normally I find these on Splice. To be honest, they're kind of hard to find on Splice. So either you have your own mic and you say whatever you want to say and then process the vocals, or you get really lucky and find a good one on Splice, or people have different sample packs with different vocal shows, pre-drop vocal shows, so you can purchase those and use those or whatever. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter as long as it sounds good, if you in terms of mixing it or whatever. Everybody make some noise. Yeah. And sometimes these processed vocals, when they come in the sample packs, they have a lot of effects on them. So they might have chorus effects or doubling effects that increase the perceived width of the sound. So like I said, this is a mixing thing. So when I do the mixing tutorial, you'll see, but I decrease the stereo feel so that it can sound a little more in the middle, so that when the drop hits, it's much more powerful. So listen. Everybody make some noise. You hear that? As opposed to this now. Everybody make some noise. Yeah. That wide stereo image really takes away from the power of the drop. Everybody make some noise. The difference is night and day, like. And then you have your outro, and the outro you literally use the drums from the drop, literally, and whatever melody you want to use. I just use a part of the drop melody. And you couldn't hear it, but this was doing the rising effect. So do. Yeah. And then for the intro, you literally just use the drums from the drop, and all the fills in the drop, you just use those again. And you maybe you want to take out some of the fills or whatever, but That's the easiest way to do it. Just use the drums from the drop. So basically, your intro and your outro are the last things you'll ever build in a big room track. You don't actually. I wouldn't suggest starting a track by building the intro and outro first. Like it's it's hard for me at least. Maybe you can do it if that's the way you decide to do your things. But I normally just take the drums from the drop and whatever other melody or sounds that I use in the track as a whole, I add them to the intro or whatever to see if I can make it a little more interesting. But yeah, so these are literally the drums from the drop. Alright, so that's basically it. I'll put a link to the actual song in the description if you guys want to hear. But that's how you build a big room track. So in summary, you build the drop first. Well, I would suggest building the drop first, then the break, then build in order to link the break and the drop, and then the second break, which is right here, is literally a variation of this, or not if you feel lazy and don't want to do anything, and it goes back into the build. So alright, so let me put it simple for you. So you build a drop first, you build a break, then you build a build. Then the second break is a variation of the first break. The second build is a variation of the first build. Or if you don't want to keep it the same, it's just that when you add a little variation, it keeps things more interesting. And then the drop is the same for the most part, or you can add variations depending on what the song calls for. And then after that, you build the intro and the outro, and then the intro. And that's basically how you do a big room song. Alright, thanks. So, like I said, mixing tutorials to follow.